Let's see why the Buffalo Bills are en route to the playoffs.
Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on and shout.
Buffalo Bills go undefeated. And we're going to the Super Bowl.
Right now, baby. Come on, come on.
No one
Come on
circles the
and
wagon
shout.
like the Buffalo Bills.
All right. So yes, thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of Overdue Bills. I'm not the typical host. Preacher's not here. He has some preach business to take care of, but I'm here. Your boy Mike D, aka Frank A. Hey, oh, it's a little better when Preach here to do it with me.
It's definitely a little better.
It's all good though. It's all good. I am here. Matt is not here. No, Matt the scammer, Matt COVID is not here. He is currently delivering the merch. We will get to that. And Rad is not here. He switched places with Mills. Rad is not out delivering stimmies, and Mills is here talking about the Bills. So Mills, how you feeling, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm excited about this game tomorrow, and I'm just excited to be able, to pod. I'm not normally on here. I'm typically in the background. I'm the one that's getting the guests for you guys each and every week. But this week, they offered me the opportunity to come on, and I accepted it. So this is what y'all got. Y'all got me today.
So before we introduce our guest, Mills, let's handle a little housekeeping, a little business, pay some bills, and shout out to our sponsor.
As you guys know, this podcast is brought to you by Buffalo Wing Kings. Being from Buffalo, there's two things the guys at OBP know. That's Bills football and wings. Our first choice and the best choice is Buffalo Wing Kings. At Wing Kings is Wings 101. With over 101 flavors of wings and a beloved Wing of the Month special, Wing Kings is sure to school any other wing place around. Opening 2 locations in January this year, one in the University District on Main Street and one in the Black Rock area on Niagara Street. They're available for Bills games, party, celebration, whatever you got going on. If you're craving wings, hit up Wing Kings. Stop by their Elmwood Village location at 484 Elmwood Avenue or give them a call and order off their temporary menu at 716-248-1427 and let them know that the guys over here at Overdue Bills Podcast sent you, and you will receive 10% off your order.
Yes,
Find out why they're known as the best Wing Kings in town. They have the best wings around.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Cav, in Buffalo, wings are big. So, it's going to be a ton of wings being sold out there. So make sure you go to Wing Kings to go get your wings. So, yes, now let's get to the guest. Our guy, friend of the show, Kev, with the dope last name, All Striker. I love that name. That would be like a dope UFC name or something.
No, it actually means Austrian. So
okay.
That All Striker in Austria is like Jones or Smith here. Like it's like super popular.
Okay.
Apparently.
That's hilarious. So we appreciate you coming on to preview this game. So before we get started, just tell the people, where you're at, how they can follow you, and just a little bit about your Ravens fandom.
Yeah, sure. Well, I've been a Ravens fan really ever since I can remember. I got into covering the team a few years ago. Fortunately, a couple of opportunities popped up for me, both with USA Today with Ravens Wire and with the Locked On Podcast Network with Locked On Ravens. Locked On Ravens, it's a daily Ravens podcast, so we put out content Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. It's always out there, and it's just a bunch of Ravens stuff. We talk Ravens for anywhere from 25 to 40 minutes every day, and it's especially now it's exciting. It's exciting times in Baltimore, obviously exciting times in Buffalo, and I'm looking forward to a good game here. But you can follow me on Twitter at ChaosStriker34. The Locked On Ravens account is Locked On Ravens, and Ravens Wire is at the Ravens Wire. So very Ravens oriented over here.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, we have a really good friend that is a huge Ravens fan, and I'm not gonna lie, Kev. All week I've been trolling online, trying to get into it with some Ravens fans. No one wanted to engage with me, but I won't take it out on you. This is a safe place. It's all right. I won't attack you. So I got a couple questions for you. Then we're gonna have some fun.
Definitely.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right, Mills, you want to start off with the first question then?
No problem. So, Kev, going into the season, Baltimore is one of those teams that everybody look forward to seeing. But you started off hot. I believe y'all started off 6-2, and then y'all went on a slump, a real big slump. And it was talks out there that said that Baltimore may not even make the playoffs. But then at some point, you guys turned y'all season around. I think y'all ended the season with a 5-game winning streak. And the question that the people want to know, the question that we want to know is, was y'all worried at any point? Like, was it a slump? Was you worried, or was it something that was in the atmosphere that may have, gave y'all, I don't know, the football jitters, and y'all couldn't play to what people expected y'all to play to? Like, what was it? What was it?
Yeah, for Baltimore, coming off that 14-2 season, Lamar Jackson wins MVP. I mean, there's so much hype coming into the year for Baltimore. I think earlier in the year, you mentioned it, they started off hot, then they get cold, then they go hot again. Early in the season for Baltimore's offense, I think people like Lamar Jackson, Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, I think they were trying to prove a point almost. The Ravens, they were a historic rushing offense in 2019. In midway through the 2020 season, they were still trying to find their identity. They didn't know whether they were a running or passing team. And, it was pretty obvious to most people in Baltimore, this is a running team, but it seemed like, again, Lamar Jackson and Greg Roman were trying to say, hey, we know we can run the football on you, but now we're going to show that we can pass it. And that's just not the identity of the Ravens. I'm not saying they can't pass the football, but their pass game feeds off of the success of their run game. And then a bunch of stuff just collided at once. The Ravens had their COVID issues in the middle of the season. They had to put at least 20 guys on the COVID list. Injuries are a key part for every team. They lost one of the best slot corners in the NFL that I don't think a lot of people know about in Tavon Young in week 2. That's his third season-ending injury in 5 years. And then they also lose the best left tackle in the league, in my opinion, in Ronnie Stanley. They lose one of the best blocking tight ends in Nick Boyle the next week. It was just a lot of things that Baltimore had to deal with. They went through that adversity. They struggled. And also there was just subpar play. The players weren't executing. Penalties were a huge factor. And I think when you look at Lamar Jackson's season in particular last year in 2019, I believe it was 43 total touchdowns. People were expecting another leap from him from a statistical perspective. But in reality, it's kind of hard for players to go back-to-back 40-plus touchdown seasons in back-to-back years. Yeah. So the statistical regression from the Ravens offense, from Lamar Jackson, that was expected, I think, by most people in Baltimore. But again, the execution, they were dropping close games, not playing football for 60 minutes consistently. So then the Ravens find their offense, really. They find their identity. They go on that 5-game winning streak. They carry it over to Tennessee and hold Derrick Henry on defense to just 2.2 yards per carry. So Baltimore, I mean, they've found their stride now, and so they're trying to continue that into Buffalo.
All right. So, so you mentioned, about the Ravens being a running team and, people expect their regression, right? He was so good last year. It's hard to be better, right? Just statistically, obviously. So, what is the perception of Lamar in Baltimore? I know nationally, he's still people saying he can't pass. Some people saying he can pass. Some people call him a running quarterback. But in Baltimore, and in your opinion, 6-5, I can understand why people was nervous. But ending 11-5 and just winning his first playoff game, is everybody all in with Lamar in Baltimore, or is there certain people saying, "Hey, we may want to think about getting Carson Wentz as a backup just in case"?
Yeah, no, people are all in Baltimore on Lamar Jackson. This might be a bit of a stretch and kind of, I guess, a spicy take, but I think Lamar Jackson is the most loved athlete Baltimore has ever had already.
Wow.
And I think that's not just because of his on-field play. He's obviously a spectacular quarterback, but what he is off the field. Lamar Jackson is one of the nicest guys anybody will ever meet. He is humble. He is willing to do anything for his teammates. It's not about him. He didn't care about the MVP. He wants a Super Bowl for his teammates. And really, when you listen to him in interviews, he'll call people, for example, Jameson Hensley from ESPN, he calls him Mr. Jameson. He has respect for people who, interview him. And he says that, look, if I was doing Mr. Jameson's job, I would want to be dealt with respect to, or I would want to be given respect to. So he is a humble person. He's someone who is just extremely kind. But from an on-the-field perspective, people in Baltimore see what I think people from outside of Baltimore don't. And there are people from outside of Baltimore who still like and respect Lamar Jackson's game.
Lamar.
Yeah, but, everybody hears the national media. It's, he can't throw. He can't win a playoff game. He's not a quarterback. Whereas in Baltimore, people see that he can throw from the pocket. He can throw on the run. You know, he's just a quarterback that can pass, but he also does stuff with his legs. And look, as long as the Ravens are winning games, scoring points, picking up first downs, in my opinion, I don't think it really matters how he does it. I mean, anybody can pick up a first down by running. We've seen, people do it. And there are a lot of different things that people in Baltimore see in Lamar Jackson that maybe people from outside of Baltimore just don't see yet. But Baltimore is all in on Lamar Jackson, and he's here to stay for a long time.
Yeah, I get what people say sometimes, but he threw for more passing yards than Tannehill and ran for more than Derrick Henry. Like, that's special, if you ask me. So before we get into this week's game, I got to ask you about the ending of last week's game. That logo stunt, man. I loved it. I was going crazy at home. What was you guys in Baltimore doing when everybody started stumping on the Titans logo?
So there's some backstory with this. I mean, the Ravens outright aren't a disrespectful franchise. I guess they've been raised the right way by John Harbaugh. The organization is an organization that respects their opponents. But what happened, first of all, the playoff loss last year against the Titans certainly didn't help things. But that was just the Titans coming out and play better. They played better than Baltimore. There was no really disrespect involved there. The disrespect started, I think, after that game where former wide receiver for the Titans, Tajay Sharp, comes up to the podium and starts mocking the Ravens' big trust. And so, that probably got people in Baltimore a little bit riled up. And then you fast forward to earlier in the 2020 season, Tennessee beats Baltimore 30-24 in overtime. But before the game, the Titans broke down on the middle of the Ravens field on the middle of their logo. And John Harbaugh, the players, they took exception to that because the logo is considered through most NFL circles as a sacred space. It's something that opposing teams should not. I mean, we saw it firsthand with Juju Smith-Schuster from the Steelers, who was dancing on the logos and then got cracked in the Cincinnati game, and then he stopped doing it. So John Harbaugh runs up to the middle of the logo with the Titans there. He almost fist fights Malcolm Butler, and Mike Vrabel gets in the middle and just says, "Go coach, go coach." So fast forward to last Sunday against the Titans, Marcus Peters seals off the game with an interception. The whole Ravens defense just flocks out to that logo. They stomp on it. They wave goodbye, and I would do anything to see the Titans bench reaction when that happened. Like, I would love to see it. But people in Baltimore were saying, look, the Titans showed disrespect. I mean, there was a clip earlier in that game on Sunday of Malcolm Butler flipping off Lamar Jackson. And, it's just that type of disrespect that the Ravens will not tolerate. They won't lie down, and they won't show respect back to people who seemingly don't respect them. So, if the Ravens played against Pittsburgh, who was one of their bitter rivals, if they play against Cleveland, who's becoming a rival, they'll be out at midfield at the end of the game, shaking hands and paying courtesies because it was a good football game and that opponent respects them. But the Titans clearly showed that they did not respect Baltimore, and Baltimore said, look, we're not going to take that. We're not going to lie down or anything, and we're going to show you that you have to respect us in order to earn our respect.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that rivalry going forward. All right, so let's get into this game. So before we get into the minutia of it, just want to ask how you guys feel about this game. So I'm gonna go to you first, Mills. Al Michaels called it the game of the week. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Reason being, for the most part, is right now Buffalo is a hot topic. Like, we're just really that hot topic. No disrespect to Baltimore, but Buffalo is all over the media. Like, the growth that we've shown, the consistency that we had this season. I think the game of the week aspect mostly leaned towards Buffalo. And then when you throw, Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, it just spices it up a little bit. And then you have the AFC, NFC type of thing. I know that's totally off your topics, but you got the future and the future of the league. And then you got, the people that's really been carrying the league, in our lifespan, over the last 20 years. And it's just good to see that. I kind of call it the passing of the torch type of thing right now. Like, you got those boys that we all looked up to, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. And then you got the up and coming Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, you know what I'm saying? And I think Buffalo Ravens is probably the most anticipated game, going forward. And it's definitely got to be the game of the week, mostly because Buffalo is that team that everybody's talking about right now.
And everybody in the comments, I want to see your answers too. All right, Kevin, do you agree with Al Michaels? Is this the game of the week?
I think so. And honestly, I'll take it a step further and say I think this might be the game of the AFC playoffs. I know people are talking about Kansas City, Buffalo, or Baltimore, Kansas City, but these two teams just match up well against each other in every facet. I mean, the big matchup to me, and I know we'll probably get into this maybe a bit later, is Buffalo's wide receivers versus Baltimore's corners. I mean, both really stacked units. And, it's interesting to see how they're going to match up. But I do think the storylines ultimately come back to Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I mean, those are the two quarterbacks, or two of the three from the 2018 quarterback class. And I think this game is the game where people will say, all right, whoever wins this one is going to be, I guess, on top of the 2018 quarterback rankings until the other proves otherwise. So we could potentially see, a Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson rivalry, for a long time. But these are two quarterbacks who have a bunch of respect for each other. I mean, both of them and some of their pregame comments have said, look, he's a phenomenal football player. He's great off the field. These are quarterbacks and teams that I think have a lot of respect for each other, but actually on the football field, I mean, this is going to be a great game.
Yep. So you mentioned matchup. That was a question further down the line, but let's get into it right now. What matchup are you looking forward to the most? And I guess maybe I'll go first as an example. I'm really looking forward to seeing Leslie Frazier versus Greg Roman to see what their plan is. How is Leslie going to contain Lamar, and what is Greg Roman playing? Right, because even though his offense is his offense, he has to compete with the Bills' offense at the end of the day. So if I'm Greg Roman, I have to score 30 points. That's what I'm thinking. And if I'm Leslie Frazier, I'm thinking, okay, I have to stop Lamar from going off. So I'm curious to see how those two play chess come Saturday night.
Yeah, with those two in particular, this Ravens offense, I mean, containing Lamar Jackson's a pretty tough ask for anybody, but if the Bills want to do that, they just have to play disciplined football. The Ravens in 2019 used a bunch of RPO where, so many things can happen. I know the Bills run some of it in Buffalo there, but with Baltimore, they've kind of moved away from that, and they'll use a bunch of jet sweeps options where they'll motion J.K. Dobbins across the field, and they'll snap the ball right before J.K. Dobbins gets there. Lamar Jackson then has two options, kind of in an RPO type stance where he can hand that ball to Dobbins, and Dobbins has, I think, deceptive speed to the edge where he can get around and pick up chunk yards, or Lamar Jackson will keep the football, run up the middle, and he's gashed teams with that before. But with Baltimore, they use a bunch of pre-snap motion to try to confuse defenses, get guys off the line. And then this is a big key for the Ravens offensive line, at least, is just to get to the second level and make sure these runners have room to run, because we are going to probably see from Baltimore a run-heavy attack. That's just what their offense is built for. And that's what I would expect them to do. So if I'm Buffalo, you probably want to try to cage in Lamar Jackson, but you can't sell out for the run too much because Lamar Jackson will use the play-action game. He'll dump it off short to maybe Patrick Ricard, maybe Mark Andrews. There are a bunch of guys who can hurt Buffalo in the pass game, who can hurt opposing defenses in the pass game. So it's just a bunch of disciplined football by an opposing defense to try to stop this Ravens offense. The edge guys are key, because if the edge guy loses contain on the edge and Lamar Jackson decides to pull the football in on, let's say, a draw or an RPO, Lamar Jackson will take that outside edge, and his speed is just, it's crazy how fast he actually is on a football field. So with the Ravens, they are going to try to take advantage of Buffalo's in the middle of the pack run defense, I'd assume. But with the Buffalo Bills, if they can play disciplined football, if they can stick to assignment football and not try to, almost be a little bit, worried about Lamar Jackson breaking one, I think that's the best way to stop the Ravens offense.
Oh, yep. So Mills, what do you think is the best matchup going into this weekend? Well, what matchup are you looking forward to seeing on the field?
Kind of like you, Mike. I like how you did that. Well, you always do stuff like that, Mike. Mike's never normal. Like, that's what I do. He's just, yeah. But personally, I'm kind of on the same lane you are, Mike, to be honest with you. My matchup is our defensive ends versus Lamar Jackson. Like we all know what he's capable of doing, man. He is totally one of those people that you have to contain. And like you said, discipline is key. Discipline is key. You have to be able to, you got to break down. You have to make those open field tackles. And I feel like if our defensive ends can contain him inside the pocket and force him to scramble, up the middle of the field and not outside, it gives our linebackers the opportunity to make those big plays. Trey Edmonds, Milano, and you bringing down maybe a nickel corner or something to play out there to spy on him. And I believe that our defensive ends, our front four in general, just have to make sure we can keep him in the pocket kind of sort of like what Tennessee did last week. They actually played a good game against Lamar. He had a good, maybe like 2 or 3 good runs for like 40 yards with touchdowns. But for the most part, they kept him in the pocket and they made those tackles. And that's what we have to do. But we got to make sure we're consistent with it throughout the entire game.
Kev, do you think is Peters going to shadow Diggs? Because that's a matchup. Because if they start jawing and talking, that's a matchup that can get interesting as well.
Yeah, I think I'd expect some Marcus Peters, some Jimmy Smith. I think the consensus in Baltimore is you would like Marlon Humphrey on Stephon Diggs, but you just can't do it. The Ravens, they have to have Humphrey in the slot against Cole Beasley. Regardless of how healthy Beasley actually is, he's still been a phenomenal receiver this season. And the Ravens don't have anybody else they can trust in the slot except for Marlon Humphrey because Tavon Young went down with that injury. So you mentioned Marcus Peters and the Stephon Diggs trash talkers. Marcus Peters is one of the best trash. I mean, we saw it with the logo, one of the best trash guys in the entire league. And Stephon Diggs can hold his own too. You know, no disrespect to Stephon Diggs. It'll be crazy to watch, but I do think the Ravens want to try some Jimmy Smith on there as well. Smith is a big physical corner, and to try to get physical with Diggs at the line, I think is going to be key. And Peters he's a little bit more slender, a little bit, not a lot of meat on his bones. So he's a great corner. The Ravens have, I mentioned it, the Ravens corners versus the Bills wide receivers, just so deep, both of those positions. So I think at the end of the day, we are going to see Peters and Smith on Diggs and then probably Humphrey in the slot against Beasley on most of his snaps.
Okay. All right, cool. So I want to get into some over-unders. But before I do that, quick trivia for you two. This randomly thought of this game today. It was October 24th, 2004. Somebody caught a pick six touchdown, and they got turned into a Burger King commercial. Do you guys remember who that player was? A Bills-Ravens game, 2004. I'll give you about 15 seconds.
I wasn't even watching football in 2004.
I'll give me that.
Man,
somebody in the chat.
I can't.
Burger King commercial? That's just really throwing me for a loop. The Burger King commercial.
Yeah, I don't know. Which Raven would be on a
It was.
Was it a Raven or was it a Bill player?
It was a Raven, the greatest cornerback of all time, if you ask me. I got Deion
Sand. Okay.
I got prime time caught a pick six versus the Bills when he was a Raven, and it turned into a Burger King. And it was like a big thing in Buffalo. Like, of course, it's always the Bills that get turned into
Burger King commercial. How did they incorporate that?
The King just replaced Deion, and he caught like a Whopper and took it to the house or something. maybe I insert it later. All right, but let's get into these over-unders then. Right, so let's start with the quarterbacks. Right now, Lamar Jackson, his over-under for yards is 195.5, and for touchdowns, 1.5 touchdowns. Kev, would you take the over, under of that?
Is that total yards or passing yards?
This is passing yards.
Okay.
195.5.
195.5.
And 1.5 touchdowns.
I'll take the over on that, but just slightly. I think that, with Lamar Jackson, he'll probably pass for over 200 yards in this game, but at the same time, I don't think he necessarily needs to pass for a lot of yards in order for the Ravens to win games. He's proven that. I think passing yards is a bit of an overrated stat, but at the same time, it certainly helps if you can pass the football and accumulate those yards. So I do think I'm going to go under or over, but not by much, maybe 10, 15 yards over. And then touchdowns, 1.5. I'll say he has 2.
Okay. How about you, Mills? You agree?
That's all passing, right?
For Lamar Jackson, 195.5 yards.
And the touchdown is running and passing?
No, touchdowns is 1.5. Just all passing. Just passing.
All passing.
Yep.
I'm going to under with the passing. I think Lamar Jackson only had maybe 4 games his entire season when he went into the 200 range. I think he averaged about 180 for the year. And I don't anticipate him going over 180, honestly. I think he will have 2 touchdowns, passing touchdowns, though. It should be a high-scoring game, so I think he should have 2 passing touchdowns, though. So I'll go over with the touchdowns, under with the passing.
And then let me give Josh, and then we can talk about the weather. So Josh is 295.5 passing yards, 2.5 touchdowns. Mills, go to you first. Over or under?
I'm going over all day. We are a passing team. Like, it's incredible. how we throw for 30, 40 passes a game. I think Josh is averaging about 280 a game. Like, I'm going over both ways.
Kev, you agree?
I am. I think that he's definitely going to go over for the passing yards. I agree. I think the Bills are a passing football team, and the Ravens play a bend don't break defense where they do give up underneath short stuff, and they rely on their red zone defense to hopefully hold the opposing offense to 3 points. So I think the Bills and Josh Allen will accumulate those passing yards, and I think Allen will, go anywhere in the 2 to 3 touchdown range. I don't think he throws 1. I don't think he throws 4, but I will say he probably throws 3 because I do anticipate this being a little bit more of a higher scoring game.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Lamar will go over passing just because I think he would have to. I think at some point he will have to throw the ball, and he probably Phillip Rivers carved this up last week, so Lamar should be okay. But as far as weather, it's not looking terrible. Wind, I think 15 to 25 miles per hour. Snow is 50%. It said with an accumulation of less than 1 inch. I know Lamar said he never played in the snow. So it's interesting.
Hope we have a blizzard. Get a blizzard. Get a blizzard. Guys, give us a blizzard
I heard lake effect. So once you hear lake effect, that's when we start talking feet. So we'll see. So let's talk about the rushing for the quarterbacks because they are both quarterbacks that can get yards, that can kill you, I guess. Let me say that. Can kill you with their feet. So I'm gonna start with Josh this time. Josh over and under rushing yards, 40.5 mils. You taking it?
I'm taking it all day. He gonna give you a couple, 15.
Damn, so Josh Allen ain't gonna have 400 passing yards, 100
40,
rushing yards, Mills?
40 yards isn't nothing, though. I can give you 40. I can give you 40. I see 210. I see at least 2 or 3 10-yarders, and we all know in the red zone, Josh is not afraid to run it in. So a couple 5 yards down there too. I'm going over.
How about you, Kevin?
I'll take the over too. I'll say probably 50-60. I think the Bills definitely incorporate him in their rushing game plan more than people give them credit for. People look at Josh Allen and say, this is a passing football team. He throws the football all over the place, but he can run the football too. So I think 50 to 60 rushing yards for Allen is probably in the realm of possibility.
I think 100% correct and with Zach Moss being injured, I can't see us giving TJ Yeldon 10 carries. Right. And I don't see us giving Devin Singletary Zach Moss touches. I think Josh Allen get 11 carries designed and then whatever he gets on scrambling too as well. So
that's a lot, Mike.
Well, that's what he got last week. Well, it depends on the defense the Ravens play too, right? The Colts play a lot of coverage. So the middle was wide open. So they did a lot of draws. The Ravens, I'm curious, before we get into receiving, you think the Ravens going to blitz and play man like they always do?
I think
the Bills tear teams up when they do that, Kev. I'm not gonna lie.
They do, and I think Don Martindale is going to have to balance this out because the Bills are lethal when teams blitz them, but at the same time, the Ravens defense is one of the most aggressive units in the entire league, and Don Martindale has kind of earned his name by blitzing. And the Ravens, when they rush 4 or 5, it's kind of hard for them to get pressure on the quarterback. We've seen that, so the Ravens almost to an extent have to blitz in some instances. But the Ravens, you'll see these looks. They'll send 8, 9 guys up to the line, and they'll drop back like 5 or 6 of them, and they'll rush crazy. It's a bunch of different crazy people. In the first game against Cleveland, John Martindale on the first possession, he dropped back Calais Campbell in coverage, and he almost intercepted the ball actually on that snap. So you'll see outside linebackers going into coverage. You'll see defensive ends going into coverage. But at the end of the day, I do think Baltimore is going to have to be aggressive in some degree. But, Don Martindale said he told his defense that they have to tackle Josh Allen like Derrick Henry because Josh Allen is hard to bring down. Mm-hmm. So going in with that mentality and seeing that Baltimore held Derrick Henry to 2.2 yards per carry, obviously this is a much different offense than Tennessee. Buffalo's is a much different offense, but Baltimore's performance on Derrick Henry does give me some hope because Henry, that 2,000-yard rusher, he's the beast. He's a monster. Yeah. Josh Allen is a beast and a monster. The only difference is Josh Allen can throw the football too. So you have to be able to go out and just defend and be aggressive too. So the blitzes will be there, but I do think he'll have to dial it back just a little bit.
All right. Yeah, I agree. Just a little bit. So let's get into Lamar. I found this on one website. On the radio, I heard 88.5 for Lamar. But what I found was 77.5 yards for Lamar Jackson rushing. Is that over, Kevin?
Yeah, I think that's over for 77.5. I could see anywhere from 80 to 100 for Lamar Jackson, just because, the passing yards, it'll probably be around 180, 200. So the Ravens, they make that up with the rushing yards. And again, it doesn't matter how you get the yards as long as you get them.
Yep.
So for Lamar Jackson, the way this offense is built, it is built for him to run the football, for Gus Edwards to run the football, for J.K. Dobbins to run the football. So I do think it's over for the rushing yards for Lamar Jackson.
Millz, can you get us 88 yards?
Listen. If we had a legit fullback, I could, but we don't really got a fullback no more. But
Millz play a little running back in high school and semi-pro, and now all of a sudden he could get 88 yards in NFL.
Hey, I know this is kind of off topic, but on our other podcast, I said I'll go head up with Derrick Henry. I take that back for the people. I'm not going to do that.
He'll kill you. So, but do you think Lamar will go over?
I'm going under.
Ooh.
I'm going under because the reason I'm going under is because if we want to win this game, he has to be under. You're saying 80 to 100. If Lamar rushed for 100 yards, we're going to lose.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
If he rushed for 100 yards,
it's over.
We are going to lose. So I'm going under because I need the Bills to win.
I respect it.
Hey, I don't bet with my heart though. So I would bet over 77 because I think that's going to be a big plan for them. Is to run the ball with Lamar. They seen Hines every time he touched the ball, he ran for 40 yards for the Colts. So I think they're gonna run around a lot with Lamar. Probably try to run the clock down, not play keep away, but if they can move the ball efficiently and still get touchdowns, I think that will be their plan. So before we get into receiving yards, I do want to say that we do have merch. The merch just came in. Matt picked up the shipment. Get your overdue Bills gear now for the game. Hoodies, t-shirts, and there is a color change. We do have one size has a different color. So I think Matt said those sold out already, but maybe I'm not. I'm trying to read the text messages.
No, the mediums sold out.
Mediums are sold out already, but everybody, please get your overdue Bills merch. I think Matt and Rad both are handling the merch. Hit them up. If you order pre-orders or anything, we will drop it off, or you can come pick it up. All right, so let's get back into the game. Receiving yards. So I just combined. I did Diggs and Beasley together, and I did Andrews and Hollywood Brown together. So I start with Andrews and Hollywood. Combined, they had them down for 115 yards combined. Do you think they get that, Kev?
Combined, I'll say so. Just because I think it's one or the other. I think one is going to be held to probably 30, 40 yards, and the other is probably going to go for 70, 80. A defense has to key in on one of them. And usually it is Andrews, just because Andrews kills defenses throughout the season. But again, I don't think it's going to be much higher, probably 115, 130, because one is going to be held in check most likely because the Bills are going to game plan for one. But at the end of the day, I do think they go over because Baltimore really, and kind of harshly outside of those two, don't really have anybody else to throw the football to.
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm curious about.
Dez.
Do you guys don't want to see him throw up the X this weekend though?
Oh, is this gonna be a Dez Josh Norman game? What year? What year is this?
Man, if it was Odell Josh Norman, it'd be a bit different.
Yeah, right. So, I'm curious because I'm assuming Trey White probably is going to shadow Hollywood Brown and Leslie say, hey, Trey, just take him out. Millz, what do you think? What does he do with Andrews? Because Milano played terrible last week. The Colts tight ends were just tearing us up all game. Everybody, all of them, Doyle, whoever you name, they were killing us. You think he put Milano on Andrews, or do you think it's going to be Poyer or Hyde, or probably likely Hyde?
I think it's tough because of Lamar Jackson. It's very tough. Your personnel has to be, you have to have the right people on the field because of Lamar's running ability and, the play action ability and, big plays. Baltimore is really known for, big plays, couple bombs downfield, So I see Buffalo playing a lot of maybe nickel defense, maybe throw a little dime in there a little bit. And I see Poyer or or Micah Hyde maybe a little bit on Mark Andrews. I don't really see a linebacker lined up with him much. We might play a little zone too, just to make sure we got a
Lamar
couple
throw
people.
through the windows.
Yeah, so that's what I'm anticipating.
All right, we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, probably not Poyer. Poyer probably a little too small, so that's why I say high. And I think Poyer probably will come down to the box and just be there just in case Lamar want to take off. All right, so let's talk Diggs and Beasley, because their number was pretty big. They got 140 combined. You think Beasley and Diggs go for that? Because they had Diggs at 95 or something, pretty much at 100.
He averaged about that this year.
Yeah. You think they go over?
Quiet as it's kept. He averaged the same as as Hollywood and Andrews combined.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Quiet as it kept. Yeah, it's rare. It's crazy. But I say over because, like we stated, we are a passing team. Josh is going to throw the ball about 40 times tomorrow, around 40 times. And him and Diggs got that chemistry. And I think Cole Beasley is going to have a big game. I think it's going to be a little reverse. Beasley might have the 95. And I can see, Diggs giving you a quiet 70 with a touchdown. So I'm going to go over, though, 100%.
Have you agree?
Yeah, I'll take the over too. I think just because I mentioned earlier that the Ravens do give up the short stuff, they give up the intermediate stuff, and that amounts to yards. So yeah. I think at the end of the day, Baltimore's game plan is going to be hold up in the red zone and almost end every offensive possession for the opponent in a kick, whether that be a punt or a field goal. So if you can get them into third and longs, obviously the Bills, their passing offense can work those pretty easily, but still, if you can avoid getting into third and shorts, if you're Baltimore's defense, it doesn't really matter if, you give up the yards at the end of the day, as long as the Bills aren't scoring touchdowns in the red zone, then most likely Baltimore's going to win based off of their offensive production.
Yeah. Okay. And it's funny because John Brown is coming like the forgotten.
Who? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Smokey.
Yeah. Right. Smoke. He know both of these teams. And I'm just curious what the plan with him, right? Because you said, Smith and Peters with Diggs, Humphrey with Beasley. So that leave Brown with, I guess, whoever. And I'm curious to see if maybe Dable want to get Brown involved some type of way, just because he is becoming the forgotten member of the band type of gig. So we'll see what the plan is. And now over and under is 49.5. Both of you guys talk like it's going to be pretty much a basketball game. Even with the snow. Are you guys taking it over then?
Yeah, I'll take the over. I think just, sometimes playoff football can can become a bit of a defensive struggle. That's just, sometimes what playoff football is. But I do think these are two high-powered offenses. The defenses for each team have struggled in some instances, not the whole season, but, these offenses are pretty elite offenses. And when you take that into account, we'll see what the weather does tomorrow. But at the end of the day, I think, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, how many plays can your playmakers make? And I think it's going to be a lot for both teams.
50 points. 50 points in the NFL.
50 points.
Man, it's crazy because when you do stuff like this and you always think it's going to be over, it's always be like 49. Like, just straight 49.
No, Vegas are geniuses.
Straight 49. But, I mean, like Kevin said, I'm definitely going over. High-power offenses. Whoever put up the most points is going to win the game. So
that's typically how games work, Mills.
That is true. That is true. But you got two defenses two defensive teams that are in the top 10. So you got to put up points.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So now let's get into it, right? I got a list of questions. It's pretty much who has the better blank in this game. I'm gonna start off pretty easy. Who has the better rushing game in this game, or the better rushing attack in this game?
Yeah, I think it has to be Baltimore. I mean, they're historic. They've been historic for the past 2 seasons. Lamar Jackson led all ball carriers, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, whoever you want to talk about, in yards per carry this season. J.K. Dobbins was 3rd, and Gus Edwards was tied for 9th. So this team, they run the football effectively. So I'm going to go Baltimore.
Yeah, Mills. I don't need to go to you.
I don't even know why you asked that question.
I'm starting off easy. Just for everybody can know what my plan is. right? Now, who has the better receiving core in this team, in this game?
Buffalo 100%. Long story short, the Ravens wanted Diggs. Buffalo got Diggs. Buffalo came out on top in that deal. We saw what Diggs does for Josh Allen, although Allen, evolved himself in his own right. We saw what DeAndre Hopkins did for Kyler Murray. So I think the Ravens have to take that next step and get that
100%.
wide receiver one. But in this game, it's Buffalo.
100%. All right, now this is the first question. This is where it gets tough because Kev, you may not know, but you're gonna find out. But who has the better kicker in the game?
Oh, I thought this was a different question, but okay, I'll answer this one too. I have to go Justin Tucker. How can I not go Justin Tucker? Although I know that, Buffalo's kicker here, a lot of respect from me, but Justin Tucker is one of the best, if not the best of all time. And he did miss one against Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And, it's kind of a shock, especially from, 50, 52, but that's just it, right? When a kicker misses from 52 and it's a shock, it's like, okay, like most kickers, when they miss from 50, it's like, all right, well, that was kind of to be expected. But with Tucker, if he misses from anywhere inside 55, it's like, wow, that's not likely. So I have to go Tucker.
Millz, no, T-Bass, he made the 54.
Justin Tucker.
He made, no love for T-Bass, Millz.
No. I was just thinking, fantasy football, I think somebody in our league picked Justin Tucker in the top 10 picks of the fantasy.
Nah, I don't know. I think they had Tucker in our league. I can't remember if I had him. It wasn't top 10, but Tucker is a kicker that round 13, I was like, all right, let me get him a little early. I don't need another tight end. Let me get Justin Tucker.
But you got to go Tucker. He's a veteran. He's a veteran kicker. You know what to expect. But in Bass's defense, he's definitely turned his kicking around. Early in the season, we were very, very afraid to let him kick the ball unless it was in the 40, 50 ranges, because them was the ones he was hitting. Anything under 40.
Well, anything under that, well, we don't kick. We just go for it if it's fourth down.
Right. Yeah. When he first got his shot, I think he missed a 27er or something. It was something crazy.
Extra point. It was looking bad at first. Yeah.
But he looked money right now. He got his confidence, and he looks good. But Justin Tucker, he's one of probably the best kicker of all time. So you got to go him.
All right.
And like you said, Mike, we're not kicking field goals tomorrow, so who cares?
That's true. All right, defense. Better defense.
Ooh. This one's tough because both.
We get into the questions.
questions. See, you did start off easy. Now it's getting difficult. Man, I'm gonna go Baltimore. The reason being because Baltimore say they have an elite secondary. Up front, they can stop the run. The issue for them is playing consistent football. They have quarters where they will just not show up to play football, whether that be the second quarter, the third quarter. It's usually in the middle of games. Last week against Tennessee, it was the first quarter. They go down 10-0 early. So with Baltimore, the talent they have, Humphrey, Peters, Smith, Chuck Clark and Deshaun Elliott, who were pretty underrated safeties. They had Earl Thomas before they cut him, but oh well. And, then they have Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe, Brandon Williams, Patrick Queen. There are a bunch of guys on that defense. Buffalo's defense and their defense has gotten really good as the season has progressed. Early in the year, it was kind of a question mark. And then now they've improved. But I think I'm still going to go Baltimore because they have, I think, found their stride at the right time here. Kind of like Buffalo, but I think Baltimore, the talent they have, I can't pick against it.
Millz, any love for the hometown team, man?
In English class, when you read a book and you read stuff and you got to do a synopsis or do a little paper on it, the teacher always tell you to find the key words in whatever you're reading. And when you brought this question out, the key word that I saw was this game. Mm-hmm. And we were talking, overall, I would go Baltimore. No questions. But since you said this game, I'm going Buffalo. Because that is the key to winning this game. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a part of the Overdue Bills podcast and I live in Buffalo, but I really think Buffalo is the better team all the way around coming into Saturday. So I'm definitely going to go Buffalo with the better defense tomorrow.
All right. Well, hopefully you're right. All right. Who will have the better coaches in this game?
Better coaches. I don't know. This is a toss-up because both have phenomenal coaching staffs. I mean, Harbaugh, Roman, Martindale versus the, McDermott, you have Dable and then Leslie Frazier.
Yeah.
I mean,
some
really, these are talented coaching
Yeah.
staffs, but man, is there a push option? Man,
I told you. I said you was happy with the wrestling question.
I was like, oh, this is gonna be easy. You know what? I think I'm gonna
just this game. I know Harbaugh won a championship.
Okay. This game, I think I'm gonna go Buffalo. And the reason is because I think on defense, Baltimore might get too aggressive. And I think that might come back to bite them. Now, if they don't get aggressive, then I'll go Baltimore. But I have a feeling that the Ravens are going to blitz, and they're going to blitz a lot. So if that comes back to bite them, it's about the adjustments. The Ravens go down 10-0 against Tennessee. They adjust, and they come back and win the game. The Ravens coaches have sometimes struggled to adjust. So if that happens again, I probably think I would trust Buffalo's coaching staff a bit more. But again, it's really it's the closest of calls here.
Mills.
Oh man, it's crazy because if you look back, like you stated before, like we asked in the first question, Baltimore started hot, they went cold, they got hot again. Baltimore was on a 5-game winning streak. You can make it 6 with the playoffs. The Bills 7-game winning streak, and coaching definitely plays a big factor.
Big part, yeah.
And I can see both teams right in that same wave with the coaching. I think Buffalo is at that place right now where, you just gotta show up. You have to show up, and this is probably the last season Buffalo is going to have with Frazier and the ball. They both might get head coaching jobs next season, just by the success they had this year. And I can just continue seeing them finishing the season strong. So I'm going to lean towards Buffalo as well.
This is a tough one because I do love John.
Well, it's okay, Mike. You hosting, so you don't got to answer the question. Okay.
I know, but I would say this. Right, this game is it's going to have a Super Bowl feel to it. I think both teams going to leave out on the field, and I think even the players themselves might show more emotion than they probably expect. So I'm curious about the coaching staff. Is McDermott going to stay aggressive, or is the moment going to get too big for him finally that this is it, where he start punting the ball, start kicking field goals, and start being real conservative because how big the moment is? I don't expect that from him because McDermott, he's very, very like a surgeon. It doesn't matter the moment, time, situation. He is who he is. So I do expect a coaching clinic from both sides of the game. So I'm excited.
Hold on, Mike. You said no pushes. Pick. You said no pushes.
I'm the host. I'm the host. I don't have to pick. So, all right. Now we here, fellas. Who will have the better quarterback in this game?
This is the one I was waiting for. This is the
now,
one I was waiting for.
You know I'm saving this one, Kev.
This is the most difficult question again. If there were push options,
and it's the most important one. Like this matters.
It is, but I can't pick against Lamar Jackson, and I have good reason to not pick against Lamar Jackson. But I do want to give credit to Josh Allen and what he's been able to do, over the course of this season. I know he worked with Jordan Palmer in the offseason and got better.
Yep.
But Lamar Jackson, and we're talking about this game. And in this game, Lamar Jackson, what he does with his arm and what he does with his legs, I think at the end of the day will outduel what Josh Allen does with his arm and with his legs just because of Baltimore's run offense. Again, a point I keep coming back to is it doesn't matter how you get the yards as long as you get them. And for Lamar Jackson, with the success he has found over these last 5-6 games, the success that the Ravens offense has found, they got hot at the right time, almost much like Buffalo did, and they have continued that throughout the playoffs. But with Lamar Jackson, he is improving every week, much like Josh Allen. But I can't pick against Lamar Jackson just based off of what he's done over these last 5-6 games and what I think he'll do against Buffalo.
Mills.
Man, it's like I'm really going to pretty much echo everything Kev just said, but I'm going to replace Lamar Jackson with Josh Allen 100%. And I think last week was a very, very big and important learning moment for Josh. It was one of those things where he made it over the hill. And I think his confidence and his poise and, the way he just the way he plays the game tomorrow is just going to be on point. I think he got those playoff jitters out, and I feel it's probably going to be the same thing with Lamar. That they won their first playoff game, and we saw last week Josh made a terrible decision when he took that sack for 20 yards and he fumbled the ball. And I don't see us seeing that this week. I think he's going to be a lot more confident. And the environment we have right now here in Buffalo is very, very, it's a whole bunch of joy here, like a whole bunch of joy. And Josh definitely feeds off, people. And we got fans in the stands now. I think that motivation from the fans is just going to, give him that uplifting spirit to perform at a high level. So I'm going to go Josh Allen. And he put out in the news world today, when, I'm going to say when. He said if, but I'm going to say when. When the Bills win the Super Bowl, he going to jump through a flaming table.
Nah, I don't need Josh Allen doing that. I need you to win another Super Bowl if you win a Super Bowl. That's what you need to do. All right. So last question. And I'm going to ask this with the point spread, because the point spread is -2.5 for Buffalo. So the Bills are a favorite. So Kev, I'm going to ask you, are you taking the points, giving the points, and who wins the game? And I guess give us your score prediction at the end.
Yeah, I mean, this game is going to be really close. My final score prediction is 3 points. So, with the points, it's gonna be close. I think it's gonna come down to the kickers. We talked about it. Those two kickers. That's what I'm looking for in this game. It's gonna be physical. It's gonna be hard fought. These teams are gonna come out with passion. But with the 2.5 spread, I think that this game is going to be won by Baltimore at the end of the day. I do think it's going to be 30-27. That's my final score prediction. But again, these two teams, I have nothing but respect for Buffalo and, what they've been able to do. And, a lot of these quarterbacks, you go to the 2018 draft class, Baker and Darnold and Allen and Rosen and Lamar Jackson, honestly, the two who probably got the most hate were Jackson and Allen, two very raw passers who had to develop their games, which they have done. And this game is kind of them coming together, facing head off and saying, all right, we wanted this moment when we got drafted all the way back in 2018. This is what we were looking for. The AFC, again, quote unquote rivalry of, it's a respectable rivalry. It's not a bad blood rivalry, but these two quarterbacks, I think, are going to have a lot of playoff matchups for a long time. But at the end of the day, I just think the way Baltimore's playing right now is tough for almost any team to overcome. So unfortunately, I don't want to call it a Baltimore buzzsaw, but, with the way Baltimore's playing right now, it's going to be very hard to stop them. But there are situations where I see Buffalo winning, but I have to take Baltimore 30-27.
Kev, you was this close to being my favorite guest, man. You ruined it.
I had to switch it up for that. I would have had to pick Buffalo, but I can't do it.
So, Mills, before you go, I do want to touch on something you said. And that's with Lamar and Josh, right? You heard people telling Lamar to go to become a wide receiver, running back, all that nonsense. You heard people telling Josh, like, he was just raw. He never going to make it. Like, he was terrible out of Wyoming, right? And to me, it showed me how important it is to go to an organization that's stable. Like, I don't know if Lamar and Josh is doing this if they aren't in Buffalo and Baltimore, right? Baker didn't have, I think, 3 head coaches already. Sam Darnold didn't have a couple head OCs already. Josh Rosen then changed a couple teams, right? So it showed me that because I was always draft a quarterback, and if he's great, he's great. It doesn't matter. You be fine. But now I think you really do have to have the right people in place. And if you don't, it doesn't matter who you draft. They could be Peyton Manning, and they probably maybe end up terrible if you don't have the right leadership, if you don't have the right coaches, the right culture, really grooming those guys. And I hate the word culture, and I just said it. But here, I'm excited for this game. All right, Mills, are you giving the points, taking the points, and who wins this game? Score prediction.
I can agree with Kev with a lot of things he said, especially with my score prediction, because I honestly have Baltimore scoring 30 points tomorrow. But the only thing that I have that is different, and I don't know if you were good at math coming up, but I think you forgot to add the 7 to Buffalo. And I think the Bills are going to win 34-30. And reason being, like you said it a little earlier, Baltimore has really struggled coming from behind. And I anticipate the Bills, leading the entire game from 15 from the clock, striking to 14:59 from the first kick to all the zeros in the fourth quarter. And I feel Baltimore's going to have a hard time, catching up. I think the Bills will get an early lead of probably 10 points, and Baltimore will have to push forward, to try, catch up. And I think the Bills will ultimately win 34-30. So if I was a betting man, I would probably, add that extra point to the Bills and make us, minus 3.5.
Oh, you were teasing 3.5. You feeling it? Okay, I respect that. This is super tough for me because like Bills Mafia, they get on me a lot because I'm not the super fan. Like I try to look at the team from an objective standpoint and try when they do bad, I say that they did bad, and people hate that about me, but it's fine. But like, if I was to step back and look at the game, Lamar is my favorite player on the field. Lamar is probably my favorite player in the league. He's like the only player that I root for. Now I root for the Bills, but I root for Lamar. So for me, this is really tough. But I do think the Bills are just going to be a little too much on offense for the Ravens, and I think the game is in the 30s. I don't got the Bills. I had 34 until Millz said 34, so I'm going to change it because I don't ever bet with Millz. Don't ever bet with Millz. So I'm going to say 31-27. I'm going 31-27. Bills win by 4. Lamar drive late, but kind of like Phil Rivers. Nah, I'm fine with the 2.5. But similar to Phillip Rivers, he doesn't get it done, and the Bills win. And hopefully it is Kansas City. I know people probably want Cleveland to win, so we can have another home game, which that will be amazing. But I don't think they will, and I'm looking forward to a Baltimore, Kansas City, or probably Buffalo, Kansas City. If it's Buffalo, Kansas City, I'm calling off work the whole week. So, all right. So we got our score predictions. We covered, over and unders. We got everything in. Learned a little bit about Baltimore and Lamar Jackson from you, Kev. So I really appreciate it. Before we let you go, you have any questions for us?
Oh man, I do have one question, and I'll ask both of you. What has been the biggest pleasure of watching Josh Allen grow?
Ooh. Millz, you want to go first?
You can go, Mike.
For me, it is just proving me wrong. Because I didn't think. I'm going now. I'm too late, man. I'm already here. I'm already here. I'm already here, bro.
You know when you read a book and you read the back of the book and it tells you everything about the book? Mm-hmm. Like, this is what Mike is about to do right now. So there's no point in me even talking. So, Mike, you can just go. Just read the back of the book and we can get out of here.
I was going to say, just being wrong. Because I didn't think that he would ever get to this level. Right, I didn't think he would be a 70% passer, right? I thought if he was going to make it in the league, it'd be Carson Wentz-esque, like big plays when you need it. No, not Drew Brees precision, just big chunks, 3 and out, up 80-yard bomb. Oh, a lot of running with his legs. But he proved me wrong. He proved a lot of people wrong, right? It's only 1 year. So he had to do it again. But I never thought that I would see this from him as being a Bills quarterback. So that's been the best part. Millz, what you want to say?
I didn't expect that, Mike. I just knew you was gonna give us one of those speeches when you can have somebody behind you with the violin. It was gonna be nice and smooth, and one of those things that everybody soak in, and then they just drink a bottle of wine, a glass of wine, and go about their day.
That's a good night.
But I mean, I can kind of agree with what you said. I mean, I had a little more faith in Josh than you and pretty much everybody else did. You know, and I kind of expected him to grow, but I didn't expect him to blow up like this. Like we're talking MVP talk, Josh Allen right now. You know, like we definitely didn't expect this, and we had that conversation earlier in the year with a couple of our friends. And do we see Josh Allen as being, you know, our quarterback here in Buffalo? And if he continues to play like this, I mean, he is our quarterback. Like we're buying Josh, what they call him, Josh Flakes. We buying Josh cereal.
Josh Jacks.
We buying Josh cereal, man. And if he continue to be like this and continue to progress year after year, he can be in the conversation as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Now, come on, man. See, and this is what I'm talking about. This is my issue with Bills fans. Like, let's slow down. Tom Brady is still playing.
If he continue to grow, Mike, if he continue to grow, you continue to grow, you're going to be the Tom Brady. You're going to be the Aaron Rodgers, the Peyton Manning. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. John Elway, Montana. Who else you want to say? Brett Favre. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get out of here before Mills start going a little crazy. All right, Kev, but we really appreciate you. You want to give our listeners, like I said, we do have a lot of Baltimore Ravens fans in Buffalo. Why? I have no idea. But we do have a lot of Ravens fans here. So let them know where they can find you at once again.
Yeah. So my Twitter handle is at ChaosStriker34. The Locked On Ravens podcast Twitter handle is at Locked On Ravens. Again, 5 days a week for that podcast. And then also over at USA Today on Ravens Wires, where you can find my written content.
All right, Kev, we appreciate it. So it should be a great game Saturday. Hopefully both teams come out healthy. Hopefully it's a great game, man. Enjoy your time watching it. And we, like I said, we really appreciate you coming on and just spending like an hour with us.
Yeah, absolutely. This was great, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, no problem. We appreciate it. All right, everybody. And as you guys know, we end every show with a little. Hey,
hold on, Mike. Real quick. For those of you who live in my district with the mail, I do have a Baltimore Ravens fan that delivers mail.
Oh my God.
You might not get your mail till about 9 o'clock because I'm gonna try to keep him out as long as I can so he cannot watch the game. So he might get a ton of overtime. So if you see somebody on your porch at 9:30, 10 o'clock, it is not a burglar. It is the mailman.
It's the Ravens fan. All right, like I said, we end every show with a little hey. Let's go, Buffalo. All right, we out.